What is going on, YouTube? I know it's been so long since I made a video, but I am back and I'm super excited for it. I know I owe you guys a whole video explaining what I've done and where I've been, and that is coming soon. Long story short is I started my own business. I quit my full-time job that I went to university for 4 years for, and now I've been doing full-time filmmaking for almost a year now, and it's been absolutely incredible. I've been working with airlines, tourism boards, different brands, growing my Instagram, and it's been an absolute journey, and I'm excited to share that story with you guys coming very soon. In today's video, we're back in Final Cut and we're covering Cinema Grade, which has been a plugin that I've been using since it came out, and it's been an absolute game changer to my workflow. I was using Color Finale, MLUT, and the built-in Final Cut Pro with their updated color correction software, and I just wasn't getting the cinematic results that I was really looking for, and Cinema Grade has been an absolute game changer for me. This isn't sponsored. It's just been a program that has made color grading easier, faster. That's what we're all really looking for in our grading workflow. So let's hop on the computer and let me show you guys all about Cinema Grade. So first thing I want to teach you guys and explain is the difference between color correcting and color grading. I think this is still a misconception that a lot of people don't quite understand, is that you have to do some preliminary work to your shots called color correcting before you get into the final grading step. I love to just slap a LUT on there and call it good, and I think so many other creators do. YC Imaging just made a video about filmmakers cheating, and I think that is a total cheat because there's so much you can do to your image before even getting to the grading step that drastically changes it. So let's hop on the computer. I got Final Cut Pro loaded with 3 different clips, and let's see some of these shots and see what kind of transformations we can make to them. So the first shot here, this is from Niagara Falls. If you guys have never been, it's one of the wonders of the world. It is in Ontario, Canada, and it's absolutely amazing. This was about a month ago, and we did a tourism project with an airline and partnered with Tourism Niagara Falls to get this shot. So this is up on one of the big towers, it's the Skylon Tower. It was just a shot of 2 people looking, pointing at the waterfalls. So pretty basic shot. As you can see, the highlights are a little bit blown out. The colors are a little bit flat. This was shot on a Sony a7 III with a flat picture profile. So to get started, we're gonna load Cinema Grade onto this clip. Just drag and drop it just like so. And what's cool about Cinema Grade is it's actually an external plugin and a different software that opens up when you are editing. So if we go open to controls, it is a completely different software that pops up. I'm just gonna maximize this so you have the full display of the software. So what's really cool about Cinema Grade, and I haven't seen before, is that you can actually drag on the image to adjust the image, which is really cool. So to play with the exposure here, we can add the exposure. What we're gonna do is select a point. So these shadows here, you can click, and then you can drag to drop, and we can add contrast just like so. So I like to add a little bit of contrast. I just like a punchy, a little bit colorful image, which I think works really well for this type of shot. To remove that point, hold Option, and that point goes away. If we want to play with our highlights, we can add a point here, and we can bring down our highlights just a little bit. Stop that. Just like so. So pretty basic. It's really cool that you can draw on your image. If you guys want sliders, if you are a photographer getting into video, then come over to the side window here and you can actually have sliders, which is really cool. So if you want to play with your midtones, bring up your midtones just like so, which is really cool. All these sliders make it super easy and super quick. If that is your preference, then by all means go for it. It's so easy that it's all laid out for you, which makes color correcting really quick. So I'm gonna go through and just add a couple adjustments. The temperature, this is for a tourism, so we wanna make it nice and warm, make it colorful. So I'm gonna drag that over and warm the image up just a little bit, just like so. So I think that looks pretty good so far. We can get out of that, and then we can go back to our saturation here. As you can see, you can drag up and down. So I'm gonna add a little bit of saturation back into this image. As you can see, the greens, the blues are starting to pop out, which is looking really good. So next step is manipulating colors individually. So if you go over to this tab here, you can click on a color. So say we're gonna try pull some of the blues out of here, and then hold Shift, and then you can drag and try and add a bit of saturation if you want to take that out. drag down, and that gets rid of some of the blues. So I'm gonna add in a little bit more blue, hold Option, get rid of that point, go down to the greens here. We can add a point, we can drag up and down to adjust that hue. So dragging down, the greens are gonna turn a little bit more blue. Dragging up, they're gonna get a little warmer. So I'm gonna drag them up ever so slightly. And then we can get rid of that point. So overall, this is looking really good. We can see from our video scopes that it is a little bit warmer of an image. The reds are a little bit higher, but I think that's what we want for this type of image. So we can go to the bypass. And as you can see, we warmed up the image. We added a lot of color back into it, which is looking really good. So the way this program is set up, you have your base correction, you have shot matching. If we had another clip that is very similar, we can shot match it. And then final grading. So always do your base correction and then move over to the final grading. So if you go over to final grading, they have looks that are built in, and then they have look transfers. One of my favorite things about this is that it's super quick to preview every LUT that you have on your computer. So if you go over to your LUTs, your user LUTs, this is what I think is really amazing and makes color grading super quick. So I probably have hundreds, maybe 1,000 LUTs on this computer. It's absolutely insane. So you can really quickly preview and scrum through super quick, and you know which looks you like, you know which looks you don't like instantly, which is really cool. So you can go through quickly, and then usually there's a couple that stand out to you, which makes it super easy to choose the type of look that you're going for. So this is one of my favorite ones. It's the C808. I'm gonna have a link to this LUT pack if you guys are interested in. I do not own it. It's something that I've purchased, and it works really well. I think the colors on this look really good, so we're gonna accept that. As you can see, this has destroyed the image, and something to keep in mind when you're using LUTs is a lot of them are super powerful. So please never use a LUT at 100%. It is way too strong. So if we go over to the side, we can drag this back. The best way to apply a LUT is by starting at 0 and then adding to it instead of starting at 100. I think too many people do it, and it makes for overcooked images, which is not what you want, especially in a professional environment. So start at 0 and drag up. And usually I'm at the 25, 30. As soon as you start to get a 50, it's looking fake, it's looking forced, and it's not the natural colors of the image. So I'm gonna leave that at 30. So this is the final image that we're working with for this clip. If we bypass to show the preview, that is what it looked like before, and that is what it looked like after. I think the colors look awesome. The warmth that we brought into it is really cool, and the client loved this video. It was really successful, so we're going to apply that. And then we can get out of Cinema Grade just by quitting the program here. And that is what we're working with. We can hide it again in here to preview what it was before and what it was after. Really cool. If this is too strong, you can dial it all the way back post, and this applies to everything, not just the LUT, not just the correction. You can drag it and tone it back down a little bit, just like so. So we're gonna do this one super quickly. This is from a hike in Alberta. This is east end of Rundle. It is an awesome hike. If you guys are ever in Alberta, you definitely got to do this. We did this for sunrise. We were up at 4 a.m. It was a hard hike when you're super tired, but it was awesome. Again, drag Cinema Grade on top of here. Open up the controls. We're going to start with our base correction always. I'm going to add a little bit of contrast, click a point in the shadows, add that back in, and delete that point into our highlights now. Add a point, add a little bit of contrast into here, get rid of that point. Bump up the mid-tones by picking like a neutral gray tone, bumping that up a little bit. And I'm going back down to the shadows to add a little bit more contrast, just like so. We're gonna go over to our temperature adjustment to see what we like. It was sunrise, so I think a little bit warmer is gonna look cool. Get a little bit of color back into the highlights, just like so. And we're gonna go back and then get into our shadows once again and make sure we're retaining a lot of that contrast. So even with a quick adjustment like this, we can already see that we brought in a little bit more tone, a little bit more depth, and a little bit dynamic range, which is looking really, really good. So I'm quickly jumping over to our final grading again. We can go over to our LUTs, to our user, and just quickly scrum through and see. Obviously, this is going to show you every LUT, so there's going to be LUTs that don't look good, and that's part of it. What I've found is that there's no magical LUT that applies to every single clip. You have to experiment. You have to use different LUTs. So having a quick preview like this allows you to really see what looks good and what doesn't look good. So for me, this is a clip that I posted on my Instagram. I have a lot of blues in my feed. I like to add blues into the shadows, especially in photos. So I'm going to look for something that applies similar to that when I am picking a LUT. So there's one that caught my eye up here. What was this one? F8560. We can accept, go over, and again, start at 0, so we can see there's a lot of color change in the blues, in the yellows, the warm tones. So we're just going to drag this till we get to an image. About 50, a little bit more, works really well. The image was super flat, so you can go a little bit harder on the LUT. If you have more saturation in your image, then be very careful with the LUTs, especially once you get to the stronger ones. But when you're shooting flat, usually you can add a little bit more power to your LUT. As we can tell, before, after, it's making a huge difference. It is drastically changing the workflow, and it's so easy and so quickly. The final example I want to show you guys is manipulating skin tones, because I shoot Sony. Everyone hates on the Sony skin tones, and that's part of the game. So we're going to use this clip. This is from the YouTube studio testing that I was doing. We're going to add cinema grade on, and we're going to drastically change this clip. I was mind blown how quickly of a result we could get. That looked absolutely amazing. So we're going to open up the controls again. This is what we're working with. As you can tell, we need to add a lot more contrast into this clip. So we're going to increase the highlights, get rid of those points, into the shadows, get that contrast back into the shot. Midtones, we're going to pump the midtones, grab the jacket, just a little bit, just like that. Moving over to the color temperature. I really want the gray wall to be neutral in this case, so we're going to drop it down, make it a little bit cooler, just like so. Go back to our color adjustment, take the white, pump the white just a little bit, which is good. And then for this, I like to use the sliders to manipulate a lot of the skin tones by hiding this. We can go over to our sliders and then add some saturation back in. As you can tell, there's a lot more depth happening in the skin tones, which is looking really, really good. So as I add a little bit of saturation to this, you can see that the skin tones are shifting a little bit. They're not solid red, they're not solid orange. I'm picking up a little bit more red. So I'm going down to the vectors. And this is what I don't like about the Final Cut color grading, is that with the line and you have to add control points, this works so much better for me. And it just makes it easier. The results seem to be significantly better. So I'm going into my reds and I change the hue. As you can tell, you go one way, you start looking like an Oompa Loompa, and drag that down. If you look at your vector scope, this line, this represents what your skin tone should be. So you want this to be on the line as much as possible. Even if you drag it up, it should still be on that line the best that you can do. So obviously we don't want to oversaturate the skin tones. We're going to dial that back just a little bit. If you want to make yourself look a little bit more tan, a secret trick is take the luma or luminance and you can drop it ever so slightly. This is going to add a little bit more contrast, it'll darken your skin just a little bit. It's going to look really, really good. Sometimes you have to manipulate the warm tones and the yellows a little bit, so we can play with those. As you can tell, you go one way, it's green. If you go other way, you're getting into the orange-red tones. So I'm going to add a little bit of orange, just like so. Add a little saturation. I'm going to take a little bit of saturation out of the whole clip. And as you can tell, we are still very much on the line over here, which is exactly where we want to be. So if we bypass this, that's what we started with. And that's a transformation super quickly without using any LUTs, just purely manipulating the tones to get an image that we're looking for. If we go over to the final grading, for this you can add a little bit of style, make it a little bit more dramatic by adding a very soft LUT to it. So for this one, we're going to scrum through. We want to keep those neutrals very, very neutral, and then just add a little bit of tone to the clip. So I think this is hard to tell because the power is at 100. We're going to accept that. Again, it looks absolutely destroyed. You can see it ruined the color in the shadows. The quality went down, but if we drag that down to 0, and then we just add a little bit. For this, we want ever so slightly, the skin tones are going to get whacked out, but we're going to add a little bit of power to this at 25. We're going to apply that, and that is going to be our final graded image for this clip. So if we bypass that, that is what we started with. That is the final image. This is not S-Log. This is shot in Cine 4, and it has made an absolute huge difference. Skin tones look perfect, and that is it. We can quit that, and our clip is being rendered out in Final Cut Pro, just like so. So that is Cinema Grade, guys. If you want to check it out, I'm going to have a link in the description. It's been an absolute game changer for my workflow, and I hopefully you guys enjoy it. Go try it out. There's a free trial available, but it's been an absolute game changer for me, and I think it will be for you guys too. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you are new to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.